Hello, my name is Cars82 and welcome back to our Omnifactory series. Today I am doing my final base walkthrough. So 134 episodes has led us to here. And basically I've gone ahead and went for a underground kind of laboratory theme. This is the stairway up to the surface. And yeah. So this is, you kind of come down here, and as we can see from the minimap, basically have a big central area, and then we have some hallways going off, and then each room is kind of like dedicated to a different thing. And I'll just kind of zip through all the different rooms, just kind of explaining what I did and what they are for. Now, if you don't know how Omnifactory works, I want to say that it was a great pack, had lots of fun. Had a little bit of a hiccup at the end, trying to craft up the final item, and ended up kind of messing up my world a little bit. But yeah, overall, I'd say great pack. Definitely recommend it if you are new to Gregtech, because there is a awesome, probably one of the best quest books I've ever had in a mod pack. If you look at these, lots and lots of descriptions. Definitely recommend reading all the different things, because these are well written, and there's lots of different hints and stuff. So yeah, just want to say overall, I think this was a great pack, had lots of fun. If you like automating machines and AE systems and Ender IO conduits and all sorts of stuff, definitely recommend it. Now, if you don't know how the mod pack is designed, basically you spend, I'd say, half the pack progressing through all the different tiers, and then you get to a point that you get a creative tank, and then that kind of opens you up to mostly unlimited resources, iron, gold, and all that stuff. And then you work towards a creative vending upgrade. So about half the pack is working towards a creative tank, and then half the pack is using that creative tank to get you a creative vending upgrade. So if you don't know, creative vending upgrade is the final item, uses all different creative stuff, and as we can see, these all have some pretty crazy recipes, and you just need lots and lots of automation to get here. And yeah, so that is where we're at. So I'm just going to go through kind of a quick base tour. I'm not going to get too involved, but I think we should probably start on that side. This is my main A system, my drives, and obviously there is all the stuff. So this is kind of like where I do all my patterns and stuff. But yeah, in the very center of the base, as you can see, we have a Tier 8 Draconic Energy Orb, and all the 4 different wings. We have power getting pulled out and sent to the different wings. And unfortunately, the Draconic transfer, it's limited, and some of the end game stuff requires a ton of power. Mostly our Draconic Fusion Room, and a lot of the UV machines, if you're doing a lot of them, require just too much power. They cannot transfer enough. So I did have to end up using some superconductor energy conduits, because they can transfer 134 million RF per tick. So a couple of the wings do have some super conduits underneath the floor. They're hidden, but I'd left the Draconic energy crystals just for looks, basically. And they are transferring power to certain rooms. Not all rooms have the superconducting conduits underneath, but yeah, some I had to. But basically, this wing down here is where we produce most of our resources. And yeah, all these different machines, we're basically using power to turn everything into resources, and each one of these has a different thing. Right here we're producing coal, as you can see, and sulfur, blaze rods, and yeah, lots and lots of these. And each one is producing something different. As we can see, there is just dozens of these machines, because you need lots and lots of resources. So if you are playing the pack, definitely recommend getting these automated as soon as possible. Obviously, you're not going to have Ender Dragon ones, but you know, Zombie and all these super important. And basically, we are pumping out the items. I do have level emitters. Unfortunately, they're a bit broken. At the moment, I had a little bit of an issue, but yeah, they are set. So like 2500 would put 2500 in there, but unfortunately they are a bit screwed up at the moment, and yeah, I'm just not going to spend too much time getting into why. This room, this is where we got our oil from. This is an oil rig, pumps the oil, and then into a distillation tower that turns it into the different fuels, and we have some chemical reactors turning them into usable fuel and some byproducts. So we mix them with hydrogen and get the usable fuel, and this gets pumped out into the rest of the base. These have fluid storage buses on them, and this will get pumped out to the rest of the base if we need it. Let's see, the next room, we'll go down here. This is my creative tank room. All the bottom row is basically producing ingots or molds or ingots or blocks, gears, and each one of these has a different one: osmiridium, red alloy, niquette alloy, annealed copper. So after you get the creative tank, this is your main way to produce resources. Now it seems a bit crazy, but when you are playing the pack, it kind of makes sense, where you kind of end up automating everything. You don't have to worry about where you get osmiridium anymore, but you got to automate everything that is osmiridium is used in, kind of thing. And yeah, the ones above are basically fluid tanks, so polyethylene, polyvinyl chloride, and then these all have fluid storage buses, and that is getting piped out into the rest of the base. Now, I don't necessarily recommend doing it this way. This is just what I chose for aesthetics. I think it looks cool. There's probably easier ways to do this, like piping this into a compacting drawer, and then you get the ingots and the blocks all in one, and then put like a storage bus on the compacting drawer. So the way I'm doing it, definitely not the most efficient, but you might be able to see underneath there are level emitters, and they are turning the machines on and off when I get to a certain threshold. And yeah, so that is my creative tank room. This back room back here, and this is one of the ones that use too much power, so I have conduits, superconducting conduits coming in here. But this is where I do a lot of my huge crafting. So 5 UV tier compressors and wire mills, lathes, assembly machines, cluster mill, etc. So we just pipe the hundreds of ingots, or tens of thousands of ingots go in here, and gets produced or processed as fast as possible. So yeah, that's where I call this like my super crafting room. And then next to that, this is basically my circuit room. Each of these is producing a different tier circuit. So that's tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's crafting cards to keep these stocked, and then that's pulled into here. And then we have level emitters turning the machines on and off. So right now they're disabled because we have enough. And yeah, that's my circuit room. This is my ore processing. I don't really use this anymore because obviously we have creative tanks, so for a lot of our resources now. Basically this is used for lapis, quartzite, because we can't get that from creative tanks. But basically it gets, you know, macerated and then washed and centrifuged. It just kind of, that's what that is for. And if you noticed, this is the power gets piped in and then gets connected to like battery buffers kind of thing, and then it gets piped out into the machine. So that's kind of like a good example of how I'm powering a lot of these machines, as you can see. And if you don't know, I do color my cables with a different tier. So brown is ZPM, white is UV. So these are actually a different tier machine than these, and it just helps me keep track of what power is going through these. Because if you don't know about Gregtech machines, if you place wrong tier down, and they will go poof and explode. Next room, this is all my storage room. I call it my storage room. And definitely don't recommend doing this if this is your world. I just did it because I think it looks kind of fun. Got level emitters. Each one has, not every single one of them, but so for example, if I don't have 100,000 gold in the system, this light will turn on. So I know at a glance if we are running low on resources or something isn't keeping up, or if I do a big craft and a whole bunch of them drop below, I can see at a glance. Obviously, the base isn't running at the moment, so we are full. Everything is good. So palladium and all that stuff is in there. But yeah, so this is my storage room. Like I said, probably no. I definitely wouldn't recommend doing this because yeah, just don't do that this way. I just like it. I just think it looks cool. But there's more efficient ways to do that. This is my AE crafting room. Molecular assemblers, we all know those. Crafting units. This does go way down underneath. I think there's 4 or 6 rows underneath. So these are much, much bigger than they look. They're just kind of hidden. Same with the these. As we can see, there's stuff underneath to make them much bigger than they actually look. And we got our assemblers, inscribers, I mean, and we got our package crafting. This, if you don't know, this is for crafting 5x5, 7x7, and 9x9 recipes. And we package the things there, and there's an on-packager in the middle, which basically sends the recipes to the adjacent crafters. So that's automated large crafting in there. Now, over here, I have some of our crafting machines, but I needed some bigger ones, and I ran out of room. I kind of designed a little kind of hidden computer room. So this is where my really big computers are. I think this is 16 million bytes in this one. And yeah, so this is kind of like my central computer room. I think it's kind of fun. And yeah, bright and shiny and super, super dark. We're using anti-blocks. You can see they're super, super dark. If I go right next to the wall, can't see anything. But yeah, this is kind of my like central CPU room. I thought that was, I thought it looked pretty fun. And I use viaducts to get around the base. I'm not doing it right now, but viaducts are not normally in the mod pack. I added that. I added thermal dynamics just for the viaducts, and each room, as we can see, has a viaduct, and there's viaducts going through the ceiling, so that's how I get around the base. But yeah, that's at the wing, and I'll kind of speed up here, otherwise this is going to turn into a very, very long episode. Basically, blast furnace room. We all know the different blast furnaces. This is where all my before we got the creative tank, a lot of the ingots were produced. As we can see, I still use them for some stuff, but most of the items now are used the creative tanks. But yeah, these are different blast furnaces. I have some at a higher tier. Fusion coils are the highest tier heat. So this is 9001. This is 9700. I just haven't replaced them all with the fusion coil blocks. And yeah, so this is my blast furnace room. Some of them are connected, some aren't. As you can see, these are 3 separate ones. These 2 are like connected, and these 2 are connected, and this one is separate. But yeah, that is that. This is my kind of crafting room. Now this crafting room and the one next to it kind of have changed a lot over the playthrough, but this is a lot of my single block machines and like single recipes. Not everything has recipes in them because I don't use them anymore. They've been upgraded, but so RAM wafers, that goes in there, and yeah, SoC wafers goes in there. And as we can see, extruders, all my different like extruders, normal pipes, all that stuff. So this is kind of like any single block crafting machine. We got interfaces on the back, and yeah, we pipe the different fluids in. As we remember, we had tanks in the other room. This is where they're getting piped in. So molten glowstone gets piped into there, and polytetrafluoroethylene gets piped in there, redstone alloy. So all these fluids are in that creative tank room. And yeah, so this is single block. These are all IV tier. So tier, I think that's tier 5. And next to it are my even higher tier machines. This is ZPM, and we got some LUV, and even at the end we have some IV we can see. So there's 3 different tiers of machines in here, which is why there's 3 different colored cables. Again, single block machines. We got macerators and chemical blasts and extractors. And yeah, so this is just like super fast high tier machines to speed up production of items. And moving on, this is our assembly line room. Oop. I missed a couple blocks there. Dang it. Oh well. But yeah, these are all my different assembly lines. And if you go underneath, they each have different recipes. These are different components, and got some fusion reactors in there and pistons and all sorts of stuff. And I have a lot of these down here just do one single item, like a 1 tier of emitter, I think LUV, ZPM. We got wetware mainframes on that one. We got a UV field generator, ZPM field generator, LUV field generator. Basically just splitting up the recipes so we can craft more at once, basically. And this is a pretty good example of my Draconic power system. As we can see, it's being pulled out of that central thing and sent into here. And then it's getting sent into all the different assembly lines. So that's a pretty good representation of the main way I get power on the base. As we can see, each room has a viaduct, so we can get around the base. This room is basically set up to produce neuroprocessing units. This whole thing, this is a high tier thing. It's used in like high tier microminers and field generators. So this is basically, this entire room is set up to produce those neuroprocessing units. I'm not going to get into everything, but all the different components, dragon cells are being produced there, and then wetware circuits are being produced, well, they're turned off at the moment, but wetware circuit boards are being produced in all these, and etc. Assembly lines all running for that. So that is what that is for. All right, moving on. These rooms don't use a whole lot anymore. We did earlier in the mod pack, but end game they don't get used as much. But these are our turbines. Fortunately, there is a bit of a graphical glitch. They should be running. Yeah, they are running, but it's just not spinning, unfortunately. But they should all be spinning. But we're basically producing power. As we can see, it's being piped out the back, pulled into a relay crystal, and then that's getting sent into the Draconic Orb. So yeah, there is that. We have a fusion reactor in here. It's not being run at the moment, but we used it to craft up the... Originally, we used it to craft up this nickel plasma. Obviously, we're using creative tanks now that we have that, so unlimited power. And yeah, there's a little room underneath where we're producing, this was producing fluorine and potassium for the nickel plasma. And yeah, we just have a few other things underneath, byproducts and thorium and stuff like that. And yeah, whenever I wanted to use a fusion reactor, basically just melted it down in a fluid extractor, and then it gets piped into the actual fusion reactor, and we can produce whatever we want. Like one of the main ones was like titanium we needed. So as we can see, I get to mix titanium and geranium. So we melted down titanium ingots, geranium, and it produces the titanium. And the last room, I have a whole bunch of vacuum freezers. Obviously, these cool ingots and produce superconducting wires. So that is that room at the end. Right, one little final wing here, and that is the whole base. It's not a super big base, as we can see. Basically, just kind of like a circle. But we are producing, this entire room setup is set up to producing polymer clay. Remember those loot machines over there that they use the polymer clay to get all the different matter to produce all the different resources. So this is what this entire setup is set up to produce polymer clay. There's also a whole bunch of stuff underneath. And as we can see, we're using creative tanks to produce glass, which produces nether quartz, which gets us resonant clathrate when you mix with molten ender, and then that gets smelted down in here to get the pulsating dust. I have this turned off at the moment because we don't really need that, but yeah, and this is all set up to produce clay. All this is cobblestone generator, pulverizing it down to dust, and then we mix it to get clay. So that is that whole room is for that. This room over here is our nuclear craft fission reactor. We use this to get a lot of the nuclear craft fuels that you need to progress to the Modpack. A lot of these endgame stuff require endgame nuclear craft fuels, californium, and stuff like that. So this is where I got a lot of those byproducts from in there. This last room on the right is just basic RF machines. We got our Ender IO stuff, slice and splice, soul binders. This is where I keep my experience and stuff. We got some phytogenic insulators producing chorus loot, which is we need a lot of. We need, I'm producing wood here. This is producing fertilizer, which is being used in there and there. So this is kind of like RF stuff. I got a whole bunch of resonators from extra utilities, and this is where those are being produced. We got an enchanter, and we have some mechanical crafters over here producing items. There's a bit of an issue with A and MBT data and AE. So thermal, some of these thermal things have a problem with auto crafting, so they are set up in this room to auto craft, and that is why those are in there. And finally, our last room, our Draconic Infusion room. I have a whole bunch of infusion injectors set up because you need literal thousands, tens of thousands of items to produce the creative vending upgrade in the end. And all these, I have them set up by how many injectors you need. So I have 2 setups for 10. I have 2 for 6, 1 for 4, and then, I don't know, 24-ish. No, it's 24 plus 1 of the 8 injectors. So that's what all those are for. And yeah, as we can see, we wyvern cores, dislocators, energy core stabilizers. So each of those are all producing those. And yeah, and then the 10s have different items in there, and obviously 6 and 4. So that's kind of my mass Draconic Infusion room. And you may be able to see superconducting conduits underneath. These just use so much power that unfortunately the relay crystals would not work in here. For example, the neutronium solar panel requires 134 billion. So yeah, with the, I forget, 2 million or 4 million RF per tick, the max transfer on the things, it just would take way too long. So unfortunately, I had to go with the Ender IO conduits for that. But yeah, that's basically the entire base. Not too big, but yeah, pretty fun. And hope you liked the tour. Like I said, I had a ton of fun with this pack. It took about, let's see, 50 days time. A lot of that towards the end was letting the world run overnight, though. So this is not, that wasn't me sitting at the computer for 50 days. But yeah, pretty fun pack to get through. And yeah, definitely recommend it. But anyway, that's going to be it for this episode. If you like this base walkthrough, feel free to follow the channel. I am doing a Enigmatica 2 Expert Mode playthrough at the moment, and I will start a new Gregtech pack probably in the next 2 days, and we will alternate days between those two. I haven't announced which one I'm going to do yet, but yeah, that's going to be it for Omnifactory. Been really fun, but it is time to put this pack to rest. So thanks for watching, and have a good one.